All right. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good everything, wherever you are on this wonderful planet. Welcome to Conspiracies. So a bit of a fun one this week. We're actually going to do a bit of a review of what's happened over the last few weeks. I'm not going to say too much because I've actually got a sore throat at the moment and generally feeling a bit like crap. So I'm
Well, it's
going
because you shaved and you let that cold air get to you.
That's a good
no,
point.
this is good. This is good. Don't worry. It's the old smooth kind of look. It's coming back in.
Smooth criminal.
Look, you know what? I've been doing the grizzly stuck at home look for a bit now. So yeah, so I thought, yeah, you got to try these things, you know. Plus, you know, it's makes me feel and look younger, I think and hope, but we'll see. So anyway, so we're going to go over flat Earth and the moon landing. So these guys have obviously had a couple of conversations now, and as always happens, once a conversation finishes, a few things sort of pop up, and yeah, it's probably a few questions from both of you. So I'll throw, I guess, the first question I want to ask both of you, and we'll keep this as a short one. So I'll throw to you first, Bobby Mac. Having had the conversations with Jay, first, do you understand where he comes from and how he thinks, and has it shifted your way of thinking?
First part of that question, yes and no, because I know Jay's religion is what is the difference between Buddhism and secular Buddhism for a start?
Okay, secular Buddhist doesn't believe in the supernatural.
Right,
they believe the teachings that Buddha brought us, but don't believe in like heavens, hells, reincarnation.
Yeah, that's what I thought, the afterlife and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so, in regards to that, I think it was. I've gone already. What was I saying? What was it? Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, so
you're on fire tonight, Bobby.
Part of what we're 2 minutes in, and I'm already forgetting what I'm talking about. So part of the Buddhist religion is skepticism. So I can understand that point of view. So where it's hard to, if you are a skeptic, but then again, if you are a skeptic, surely you should be skeptical of both sides, not just skeptical of one side.
But I guess do you understand? I guess how, because I mean you guys are both extremes. You know, one extreme of the end each. I mean, Jay's very much skeptical of the conspiracy and doesn't buy into a lot of conspiracies, whereas Bobby, you're more inclined to, I guess, be skeptical about everything else and buy into the conspiracy. So I guess it's more okay. So I'll throw down.
Sorry to interrupt. It's not really the case of buying into them. It's sort of, yes, you do hear some weird stuff, but it's where those sort of, it depends where you want to sort of follow it. So a lot of people just hear information and think, nah, straight dismiss it straight off the bat. But when you sort of do a little bit of digging about it, you start seeing the connections and stuff, and that's what all makes sense. So it's not just a bit of a mixture of stuff. You have to sort of look at it from all points of view, I think. So.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. So, Jay, I guess that being said, do you have a bit of an understanding of where Bobby comes from with these things?
I do. I understand where a lot of people come from, the conspiracies, but because I don't just look at them and automatically dismiss them. I actually look into them. I actually do a deep dive into them, and I don't find any credibility in any of them. Especially, I mean, the 2 we're talking about tonight, flat Earth and the moon landing, the evidence supporting both the fact that the moon landing happened and the Earth isn't flat is so overwhelming. I don't see how anybody can actually believe in either that, we didn't go to the moon or the Earth is flat. I just, the science there just doesn't support the evidence for their claims.
Excuse me, sorry.
So I think it's fair to say that probably on the moon landing and flat Earth, your viewpoint wouldn't have changed, Jay. Has the way that you look at things changed through having these conversations?
No, and I'll explain why. Because like I said before, I do look at the conspiracies critically. Everything Bobby has brought up over the last few weeks, I've actually looked into all of that stuff and found, in my opinion, found them lacking. So, like I said, I don't go, oh, the Earth is flat. Oh, that's just bullshit. No, I've actually looked into, why people believe the Earth is flat. What is this reasoning for? Every time I hear something new, it's not just I don't take it and go, yeah, no, that's not true. I actually look at the what they're saying and their arguments for it, and the science just doesn't support their theory. And I noticed something the other night. I wish I would have thought about it. Friday night, I had the sun and the moon in the sky at the same time.
Yeah.
And then the flat Earth, that can't happen. So that right there,
it still can though. If you look at the way the flat Earth map is, top down, the sun and the moon can still line up with each other. So you're still going to have them in that position. You know what I mean? There would be an explanation. It would confuse me more for the opposite way. If the Earth was round, I'd be thinking, well, how comes that? If it's light one side and dark the other, if it's going round, why is that possible? It makes more sense in the flat Earth because they are above us.
In every flat Earth map I've seen, it's always been the Earth is the sun is on one side and the moon is on the other. And they rotate.
Yin and yang.
Like the yin and yang. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They never come. They never overlap each other on any of the flat Earth maps.
Yes, they do, because the way that it spins around because of the seasons. I've got a flat Earth clock on my phone, and the way that it comes around, the sun catches up with the moon, and then it goes round it, and then it goes past the moon, and it has actually got this proper spinning motion, and it's an explanation that sort of makes sense to me. So, but that's the thing, you see it from that point of view. But again, being not just flat Earth, but sort of like the as Chris said, like with the extreme to certain degrees with certain conspiracies, should I say?
Mm-hmm.
I look at it as though, as you say, like question everything. I see it from not what we're seeing, but possibly from a different point of view, and that's where I see it from. So we're sort of, it's weird that we're looking at the exact same situation, but seeing two completely different thought patterns and reasoning techniques behind them.
Yeah, I think for me, it's more of a I trust and believe the science. Not saying that you don't.
No, of course, yes, yeah.
But I trust the science that's there. I trust the people that are way smarter than me and believe what they say. And like you said, this is nothing against you, but almost all the conspiracy theorists don't believe anything that the institutions tell you. Yes. And I can't get behind that fact where people just don't go, this is gravity, No, that's not gravity. It's freaking that literally that explains gravity right there. But you get a lot of them to go, that's not gravity. Why? Because we don't know what causes it.
I'm one of those person. We don't know really what causes it. It's sort of we think we know what causes it because we've come to the conclusion that that's what it is, because it seems to work along with our narrative. That's where with science you can get a lot of holes poked into it, and people come along and change different parts of it to try and fit their opinion of it, so to say. So that's where I see it from. I see it from. Some people could say it is. I am very conspiratorial. Like my message, she says that everything's not a conspiracy, but not everything is, obviously. But at the same time, I do see a lot of things that I think there's some kind of agenda to that. You know what I mean? So there's something hidden sort of behind that. You know what I mean? So a lot of time there is, because we don't really know what's going on. You're just seeing. We're only seeing a couple of sides of it. We don't really know exactly what's going on. We're seeing it. Predominantly the time we get information is from NASA. You know what I mean? So we send our own cameras up. But then I've also seen pictures of the same horizon, how it looks, and then with NASA, and it looks like this big ball, and then it's like how it's supposed to look. So you've got these conflicting images, and it's like, well, what is it actually? Is it flat, or is it this ball? Two completely same. What is supposed to be the same image, but they're two completely different images.
So I want to interject here, because one thing I really have been wanting to ask is, all right, I'm going to assume for a second, and this is not my position, I'm going to be very clear. I'm going to assume for a second that Bobby's right. Okay. What's the point of the conspiracy? I get say okay with things like New World Order, even to a lesser extent, faking the moon landing. I can understand the reasoning that there would be potentially a reason behind that. There's an explanation behind that, but the only explanation that I ever hear for the flat Earth has to do with Christianity and the Christian belief system, which I know you don't necessarily buy into.
Yes.
Whereas most ancient religions, most ancient people believed in the globe and were able to see it. So I guess what would be the point? Because I would imagine if there was a flat Earth, it would actually be better for government control, because then they would be able to, especially the more religious states like the United States which is where NASA is, would be able to push, and especially during the Cold War, it would have been great to say, hey, look, those godless commies, forget the godless commies because we're on a flat Earth, because that would have to prove some kind of divinity. What do you think that the purpose is?
I'll say the quick answer first, and then I can go into a bit more detail. Quick answer is a control thing. It happens very easily. We're seeing it happening at the moment. You know what I mean? It's been going on for hundreds, thousands of years. It's a control thing that wants to stop us from knowing what's out there. Like, we're even stopped from using our full potential as a person. We're dulled down. We're nullified from using our full potential. And
how so?
Well, you can get a lot of things from the food that we eat, clogging us up. We've got you've got diets, lack of exercise. You've got fluoride in the water that can calcify in your pineal gland. You've got different chemicals that you can get put in your body from like fillings and stuff like that can slowly affect you over time. You know what I mean? So there's various control mechanisms that you can put in place. You've got the parental control problem, you've got the financial problem, and you've got the military problem of it. So you've got all these different factions that are all sort of working against each other, but are sort of in cahoots with each other at the same time.
Yep. I have a problem with that. Those are recent issues. That doesn't.
No. I would say these have been going on. Stuff like that's been going on for a long
but
time.
The monetary issues, like you were saying, and the military issues have nothing to do with flat Earth.
No, but they do, because it's still government. It's still the government. It's still a government control system. That's what it comes down to.
Now it is. Now it wasn't back then.
They still had a form of government to a certain degree. So they would have had in the Romans, they would have had their hierarchy. The Egyptians would have had their hierarchy. All these different like Middle Ages, they would have all had these different hierarchies that run how their area was governed. And then as more and more people came and all the lands grew bigger and bigger and bigger, more people came on board, then more owners and all that sort of came on the land. And then everybody sort of had to try and all the main people started getting together and joining all these different groups, and then it all just splintered off from there.
But there's only ever been the one. There's only ever been the one group that's ever said that the Earth was flat and really tried to push that, which was the Catholic Church under, well, I guess not even Constantine. It's more a Middle Ages thing. It's more a modern Catholic Church teaching.
Yeah, the Aristophanes, proved that the Earth was round. What is it, 2,500 years ago? Something like that.
Yeah, the Islamic world has never had that. I don't believe. Africa.
I've also seen it work on flat Earth as well. It's just as the positioning of the sun is actually coming over. Because have you still actually watched a proper footage of the sun rising, so to say?
I've watched it in person.
Yeah.
Yes. So, but if you watch it sped up, it comes towards you. It doesn't rise up. It comes towards you, like it's coming from far away.
And see, the problem with that is, if that was the case, the angular size of the sun would change.
Of course, because
it doesn't.
Technically, what size that it? Because it's to me, it's not technically the size that it's supposed to be. This is what I mean. So
I understand that. But the angular size of the sun above us compared to at the horizon is the exact same size in both locations. That can happen if it's moving away from us or getting closer to us.
You sort of hang on. Explain that again. I was sort of reading the chat then for a
Okay,
second. And
the angular size of the sun when it's above us is the exact same size as it is when it hits the horizon. If the sun was moving around us, it means it would when it went to the horizon as it passed over us, it would go from smaller to bigger to smaller, and it doesn't. It's the exact same size at the horizon as it is at midday. And if it moved, you would change size, and it never changes size.
You can see footage where it's sort of like even when it's coming from over the ocean, you can actually see it off in a distance. It's this tiny little ball, and then it just travels towards the camera. It doesn't look like it's moving upwards. It looks like it's moving towards the camera. Have you seen any of that footage?
I've seen it, but it doesn't mean shit. If you take your camera, put a solar lens flare on it, measure it at different points of the day, it's going to measure the exact same thing at each time of the day.
Aye, the sun itself is going to be the same size, but the positioning as it's coming in for you to see it, when it gets to that final position, or it stays at that size as it goes over.
But if in the flat Earth, if it's coming towards you, that means it's going from smaller to bigger. And from the point you see it to the point midday, it's the exact same size.
Aye, when it gets to the horizon, when it gets to your sort of level of perspective where you can see, that's from that positioning, the sun's not going to get any bigger. To me, it's just going to stay that it's going to come in, and then it's going to stop at the size that you visualize it as normal, and then it carries on as that size until it goes away. And as it's setting, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller as it actually moves away, and then it just disappears off.
But that's the thing. It doesn't get smaller. It stays the same size.
But it moves away. That's what I mean.
I know. I understand it. It's moving away from you. Moving away from you, it would get smaller. It doesn't get smaller. It stays the same size. From sunrise to sunset, the sun is the exact same size.
Yeah, I'll back that up. It's I've seen plenty of sunrises and sunsets, and it doesn't change size. In fact, the afternoon. Okay, so I used to live. Remember when I lived in Sydney and Heathcote, Bobby? I don't know if you came to that place when I was up there. It was west facing. It was up high, so no mountains like we've got here. And I can tell you that afternoon sun, as it was going right down, was coming straight in, and it was massive and it was hot. It wasn't distant. It wasn't anything like that, like it would be under that model. It is exactly the same size. And I'm happy to go, and we can go and watch a sunrise together if you want. Go down the beach, and it'll be very nice. We can go and do that.
You have to watch it sped up because you don't have that. You have to watch it sped up because it gets to show you the actual motion of it. Because if you're just seeing it with your eyes, it's only from when it's coming into perspective.
But you don't have to do it sped up. Take a picture with a solar lens at 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, and measure each one of those, and they're all going to come out to the exact same size. Watching it sped up is not going to change anything because it's all going to be the exact same size from sunrise to sunset.
I said, but to me, we've got two different ways of how we think that it's set up. So it's hard to try and. I understand what you mean, but I also can completely see in my head, I can completely see where it explains to me. And I know that might sound a little bit sort of daft that people are like, but that's just how I am. Like, it'd be hard for me to not get out of.
Well, it's
really quickly, guys. I'm going to jump out and let you guys have the conversation because my throat's killing me, and it's more interesting with you two. I just did want to ask that question, but I'm going to leave it with you guys, and I'll just duck back in from time to time.
It's a really easy experiment. Just get a camera and get one that's got a solar filter on it, and you can go out and take the pictures yourself, do your measurements, exact same size.
So how do you think it should rise on a flat Earth then? What way would you be able to see it?
It can't rise on a flat Earth.
No, that's what I mean. This is why we have two different views of it, because I see it as like fixed going round like that, from the more geocentric compared to the heliocentric, where we're going around the sun. So that's where it's hard. That's where I can understand more of the flat Earth concept, because when you see it on a top-down flat Earth map with the sun and the moon moving, you can understand what it means when it does travel off. It does, because it's traveling away from you, and it goes away, and it just goes off into the distance, and it gets smaller. And that was one of the things that made me question this in the first place. I'd never really paid too much attention, because that's why you tend to see a lot of movies, I've noticed, when you're getting a lot of sunsets, it gets to a certain point and then it just cuts. And it's sort of like, yeah, you could do it all the way, but you're sort of, you could amplify different parts of it, but you're only wanting to show what you want to show. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I'm trying to, it's probably a pilot. I'm trying to keep up with some of the comments. I see my name mentioned a couple of times, but I want to try and focus on the conversation and not the chat. So if anybody mentioned my name, I'm sorry, I'm not being rude, but I did see this dude mention me, so thanks, Paul. What are we talking about again? Oh yeah, so just the trajectory of the sun, in my opinion.
Sorry, what I'll do for you, Bobby, is anything in the chat that's relevant that I think could be worth mentioning, I'll put down here. So don't worry about trying to keep up with it. I'll chuck in everything. Paul Camish just asked if you're a pilot, and I think it's because we've got the picture of you flying the plane. So I just said no.
Oh, yes, I am a pilot. Yes, I am a pilot. I fly F-15s. Boeing. That's how I
Maverick, yeah.
Australia. I pretended I did a catch me if you can situation from Scotland and pretended I was a fucking pilot.
All right. So once again, I'm going to drop out, but I'll put anything up here that I think. So anyone with any questions, just tag me in it, and I'll.
And if anybody's on my side, I always like fans. Like, you put the haters up as well, but it's always good to have somebody on my side.
Well, I'm running this on another channel, and there was someone. I was actually running this on another channel as well, and there was the only person in the chat there, and he was giving it to Jay, actually, saying that Jay wasn't looking at things with sense, and I invited him to come into this one, but we haven't seen him. So I'll see if I can find it, because it sort of gave me a bit of a chuckle.
Is that on your other channel?
Yeah. Oh, here it is. Yeah, Jay has 0% discernment. So I thought that, but that was the extent of the conversation on the other channel. So
0% discernment. What the hell?
I don't know. I don't even know how, because I think there's two people who follow the other channel. I've just got it streaming there, so I've got some content for later. And I saw a comment on. I was like, how the hell did anyone? I didn't even know the channel was listed. But anyway, it's
what was that on? Sorry, messed up.
I'll tell you later. It's something I'm working on. But anyway, once again, I'll drop out and just tag me in any questions. And well, actually, here we go. We've got one from Scummer. So yeah, it's when you get around to it if you want to address that. But I'll let you guys continue the conversation.
What was one of the? Oh no, I want to give a quick explanation about that pilot thing that I was doing. Right, quick funny story. I'd like to take part in a lot of radio contests, and I've won a lot of radio shows here and in the UK. I even got in the local paper. Jeff will know this one. I got into the News of the World in 1999, and I had my own pun. They came round and took a picture, because I was on 3 times in one day on Radio 1. And I won for each time that I was on. And they came round from the News of the World and took pictures of me with all my prizes. And I had my own pun. They didn't put the picture up. They just had this little column. And it was Rob Loves Radio 1, spelled W-O-N. So, yeah. So one of these competitions that I won in this local radio station here was to fly an aeroplane at the local air. And I was just like, yeah, fuck it, why not? You know what I mean? But my missus was panicking because I'm epileptic. She was worried in case I was going to have a fucking seizure or something when I was up there. I thought I wouldn't tell the pilot that when she came out. So, but yeah, she actually let me fly the plane, and yeah, it was quite daunting. So I didn't actually get to look about, because, to be honest, I was more paranoid about crashing. I know that sounds ridiculous, but when you're up there and you're flying a plane and you have no idea what you're doing, you don't really sort of want to look about too much, because you feel like you're like driving. You just have to focus fucking and then do every now and again. That's honestly what it felt like. So, but I think even up to me, even if I had sort of noticed it, you can sort of either see it, depends on how clear it is, what the atmospheric pressure's like, whatever, what you're able to see. So I don't know if I would have been able to see it flat or curved with like that anyway.
Chris, if you want to put up Godless Granny's question for Bobby.
Okay. Well, it could be 4D. We're only going off what we know. We're only going off what we are already aware of.
So I'm going to interrupt once again. If you guys can do me a favor, if a question does pop up, if I can get one of you to read the question out, because it's going to go to a podcast that won't be visual. So just Godless Granny's question was, does Bobby say the Earth is 2-dimensional or 3? If 3, how deep is it? Why hasn't anyone dug to the bottom? I promise I'm not going to interrupt again.
You will.
We will know that.
Hang on, I'm just writing something down before I start talking about it and then forget it. Okay, so yeah, excuse me. We're only aware of 2D and 3D. There could be far more out there, regardless of what people's views are or anything like that. There is a sort of different versions and like possibilities of what we've got at the moment. Regardless, I don't know if that would be 4D, 5D, up to fucking 12D. Who bloody knows? In regards to digging down to the bottom, I know there was something in Russia called the Kora borehole, where they drew down and they dropped this microphone down and they actually got to this really hard surface, but they didn't get that far. It was only like 8 miles down or something they got, and the drill stopped and it hit this hard surface and it managed to break through, and it went instantly hot, and they could hear like what sounded like heaps of different screams, like female and male shrieks and screams. It was actually gave you goosebumps listening to it. It was quite weird. Like you could definitely hear like women's screams and like men's screams, like the difference in the tones. And it was like, is that air rushing through? You know what I mean? At different sort of, you don't know what it was, but the temperatures went from 0 to 3,500 degrees or whatever it was. It went something ridiculous. So that's one thing that they go down. But I mean, again, we're going off of that the earth and the crust and the core and the mantle is all what we know it is. Again, you've got all the science that can prove it, but we're going off a science of an idea that we've already had the idea of for thousands of years. So we're sticking to that idea. And I think a lot of people that do tend to come out with stuff that questions what's supposed to be narrative get shushed and get silenced and get ridiculed and kicked out of the field and never worked again. So there is people that come up. I actually read a funny quote by Napoleon. I almost said Napoleon Dynamite then. Napoleon Bonaparte. I think so. It was Napoleon Bonaparte said, "History is a set of lies everybody agrees upon," which I think I know Napoleon Bonaparte's not the best person to take advice from, but at the same time, he was obviously in that circle, so he knew what went on. So it's a set of lies agreed by everybody that's involved in it. So what were we talking about again? What was the original thing?
2D or 3D?
Yeah, so again, we're going off that idea of what the actual Earth from top to bottom looks like, from outside to inside looks like. Whereas if you don't have that context, as I said, if we're living, my idea, it's not, I have a different view, I don't know if people know, but we live in an oblate spheroid-shaped biosphere, and the Earth itself spreads out. Obviously, you've got mountains going up and down, and you've got all those different features and stuff. But the land itself, I think, is flat itself. Goes just whichever direction it goes within this spheroid-shaped Earth.
I got to look something up here real quick because I don't remember the exact numbers.
And then while you're doing that, I'll read this. While you're doing that, I'll read this thing. Paul said, "Bobby, I am a pilot and I can show you the 15 degree per hour drift. We can fly for an hour. I will set the direction indicator. We'll not touch it in flight, and it will be 15 degrees out when we land." So you've still got that the stabilizer thing that tells you where the bubble, like where your horizon is. So you're constantly following that. So would you? Surely it would have to take into effect. Would it take it like a Coriolis effect? How it would have to curve around instead of it just going perfectly straight? It would have to keep dipping its nose round and round and round to go round the Earth. Would that not be the case? I could ask both you, Jay, and Paul, but yeah, in regards to that question, I'm not 100% sure. So, did you find what you were looking for?
I'm trying to here in a second. Yeah, I'm not getting it right offhand. Okay, one of the biggest things that I see when it comes to flat Earth and when it comes to the size and whatnot is a lot of flat earthers can't grasp the fact of how big the Earth actually is. So if I'm trying to remember, so I was trying to look up, but I couldn't get it right offhand. A 6-foot man is approximately, what is it, like? God, I'm gonna get the number wrong, but this because I can't remember right offhand. But this will give you a size comparison. A 6-foot tall man is like 160,000 times smaller than the
ratio of like
the ratio is astronomically huge. Okay, so yes, from your perspective, when you're standing on the ground, especially we'll take the salt lakes because the salt flats because it's flat. The Earth is gonna look flat because they don't take into consideration just how big the Earth is.
But
the same thing.
Off their equations off of how big the Earth is. So if they don't know how big the Earth is, how can they judge their?
But
their size?
We do know how big the Earth is.
But if you're taking into consideration, if you're supposed to see one point from another that you shouldn't really technically be able to see, if you're seeing across a lake, maybe 25, 50 odd k's across from a lake that you shouldn't be able to see, what's the possibilities of that happening? Because if it's curved and you're having 8 miles per square inch or something along those lines, I can't remember too much. So you would have a larger percentage of curvature going off the side. I think it's like 36,000. Is it 36,000 miles wide, the Earth, or is that small? That sounds quite small. 36,000 miles wide.
It's 24.6 thousand miles in diameter.
24. What was it? 24.6.
24.6 thousand, if I remember right. Right, give or take. Or 24.1. I don't know. It's 24,000 something. But yeah, that's why when they say the Earth spins at 1,000 miles per hour, that we actually can't feel that because it's one rotation in 24 hours. If you think about how slow that is,
yes,
and so you take that in comparison to how big the Earth is, it's so slow you're not going to feel it. But yet at the same time, we are spinning at 1,000 miles an hour.
See, to me again, that part doesn't really make much sense because it's just. I just think we're stationary, fixed. And I know that goes all back into the biblical aspect of it, how there's verses that saying it's sort of fixed to the corners of the earth, and there's all these different there's that many of them, I can't remember them. I don't know my Bible verses that well. But I know you said there was only 2 or 3, but there is a lot that sort of don't necessarily say about the flat earth, but give an idea of that's what they are sort of meaning. Like people can take that interpretation from them. But it has been something
that right there on the screen is the equation for the size comparison. That's a lot of mathematics I don't understand.
Yeah, no, I understand that. No, I really wish I did.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a good one right there. If you have a high powered telescope, because we've got telescopes, we can point them from here and look at the moon and get extreme details on it. If that was the case, why can't someone in San Francisco use that high-powered telescope and look at Japan?
Because you've got mountains in the way and stuff like that.
Not across the ocean, you don't.
I don't. It depends what sort of. You would have to use a very, very. If you pointed the Hubble, pointed the Hubble at it, you probably would be able to see it.
But you can't because of the Earth curvature.
But we don't have a strong enough telescope that we can use from the ground level to look completely straight out, because the distance via the water is too big.
Yeah, I don't buy that one myself.
Yeah, no,
I understand.
What telescope would you have to use though? Like, You couldn't just like
don't you think, because you said the Hubble, for example, right? It's not going to take a telescope as powerful as the Hubble to look that far with a telescope. I mean, you'll have to get a high powered telescope to do it, but you still would be able to, if it was flat, look across the ocean.
No, you would have waves and all that. The waves would get in the way. You would never have it flat enough that you'd actually be able to see the highest point. What is it? Mount Fuji is the highest point in Japan. So there would be too many waves to get in the way. It's a huge stretch of water.
Okay, take it to the other direction. Go across the Atlantic instead of the Pacific.
You're still going such a long way. You don't know what the sea is going to be like. So you wouldn't have.
Yeah, but if you get high enough, the seas aren't going to matter.
Oh yes, well you probably can then. But has it ever been done?
Yeah, well, like Ilya Moon just said, the surface area of the Earth is 196.9 miles. I'm a little confused, but anyways, going back to that point, if that's the case, in an airplane, you should be able to see, high up. You can see farther than you can at ground level, but you should still be able to see, things that you're not going to be able to see on a flight.
You've got all the lower atmospheric pressure. You've got clouds. You're going to have those visual distortions. You're never going to have it that clear that you're going to be able to physically see it, regardless of whether, because you're going to have environmental and atmospheric things in play.
See, now this is where I'm trying to word this right. Give me just a second. You're starting to fall into flat Earth arguments that they pick and choose to what they understand. Yes, refraction. No. I'm not saying this is what I'm. Let me explain here real quick. Mm-hmm. Flat Earthers will yell refraction and atmospheric differences as it suits them. If you can prove that the atmospheric conditions or refraction proves otherwise, then they say it can't be that. But if it proves their level, then it's refraction or atmospheric conditions. But that's not the case. This is what I'm getting at. Okay, before to understand where I'm coming from. When I said at the beginning, I look at when I hear a conspiracy, I dive in and I listen to both sides. Okay, and this is in the case of atmospheric conditions and refraction. This is where flat earthers can't agree on anything. Some of them say yes, it takes into consideration. Some of them say no. When we do know, they will take into consideration on some things and other things they won't. But some will say absolutely not always or absolutely plus always.
So we're finding out ourselves, I think, to a certain degree. So we're sort of finding out new things that somebody else might have not picked up on before that we've noticed in the past, and that's why people notice different things. That can happen. It goes both ways, to be honest. Like people can work that out from their own distinction, either whichever side of the coin you're looking at. You can take atmospheric pressure and all that into play in reflections, regardless of whether you're into flat Earth or round Earth.
Okay. Grumpy old dude asked a question. Says, has Bobby ever watched or seen footage of a halo jump?
Yes, I think I've seen a couple. So, I mean, again, I don't just want to say the lens, but the lens is a big giveaway for me as well. I know people go, that's bullshit, but that's my honest opinion with that, because it's hard to get a proper lens. You're getting concave, straight, convex, constantly as it's turning around. But then you can get weather balloons, as Jeff mentioned. I think it was Jeff mentioned earlier on about sending a weather balloon up. You can send a weather balloon up 900,000 feet, and it's bobbing around. You can hear it beep, 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 and the horizon. Whatever we're seeing doesn't have any curvature on it. So that's I can't explain that.
I can. The lens isn't wide enough. You're not getting the full. You're only getting a section. You're getting this section when you need to have this section.
But what's the fisheye lens?
That's the problem. You need to have a section this, just scale wise, you need a section this big to see the curvature, and the lenses are giving you a section this big, and it's not showing you.
That's what you're getting on fisheye lens. You're only getting that point in the center, and then the glass itself, you can see fisheye when the light hits it. You can see the indentations on it where it's been molded. So why use that then? Why not just use normal? The word that you described, I can't remember the word that you used for it.
I don't remember. There's been here's another experiment you can do for yourself. The pictures that a lot of flat earthers say, that are taken really high, and they go, oh look, it's a flat horizon. You can take that picture and you can compress it. So it goes from this big to this big, and when you compress it in, you'll actually see the curvature. When you span it back out to the normal picture, it looks flat, but when you compress it in, there's an actual curve there. It's something
you're squashing it together, so you're obviously.
But
it's
if
like having one of those pictures that you can open like an accordion, and you can open the picture and you can close it back together, and it makes another picture.
Yes, but if it's a solid, unmoving picture, and you squash it, it's not going to do this. All it's going to do is this. It's just going to compress in. It's not going to bowl. It's not going to bubble up. I mean, if you take a physical picture and do it, yeah, it will do that. But if you take a digital picture and compress it, it's not going to give you that bubble. It's going to show you there's a curve.
I've done that actually with one of those time-lapse things on my phone where you sort of go around and you pan it round and you get the panoramic shot. And I'm just trying to think now if... So yeah, I think it's... I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, that's what I'm thinking. If it would be curved, it would be because it's getting squashed down to fit into a certain point of view that you can see all the picture at once. So it's obviously going to contort the picture, I would say, and contort your vision of it. And that's why we can see different aspects of it. If you can use a wide-angle lens, why not use a wide-angle lens on everything? What difference does it make?
Well, here's the difference. We know it's not flat. We don't need to take those pictures.
Aye, but that's where to me it's hard because I'm seeing it from one side, but because you don't see it from the other side, it's hard because.
Well, here's a question back to you.
Because I went from Bob's side. I went from both sides, from not believing it to believing it.
So
whereas if you've only went from not believing it, you can't go into
all these. The question you just asked me, why don't they take a picture of it with a wide-angle lens? Why doesn't a flat earther do it and prove it's flat? They haven't done it either.
Well, you can do a flat earthers have sent weather balloons up with a camera on it
and shown. Yeah, either one, they didn't go up high enough, or two, showed it was flat. I've seen them both.
No, I've seen ones going up 800,000 feet. I'm pretty sure it was up fucking high.
Yeah, but I know I've seen those, and the problem was that they're using a GoPro camera, and a GoPro camera does not have a wide-angle lens.
Yeah, GoPro's got the fisheye lens in it.
Yeah,
but this is cameras without fisheye lens on it.
Well, not all GoPros have a fisheye.
Oh no! But these ones aren't specifically with fisheye. So that's where, sorry.
The question on the screen there, it says,
here we go, sorry.
It says, question for Bobby, does it have to make sense to be true?
Again, I could just ask that straight back at you, Gary. Does it have to make sense to be true? No, it doesn't have to make sense to be true. We don't have to make sense of anything, I don't reckon. It's whatever, we can interpret things different ways. One way of one person's way of thinking is different to another person's thinking. So what can make sense to you might not make sense to me. Everybody's got their own different rationale, different mindset, different way of thinking. So it can go both ways, in all honesty.
So let me ask you this question. Again, now that we've talked a couple times, why do you not trust the science that has been given to us?
Good question. I wish I could, but it's hard for me. I don't distrust science. I'm not saying I don't believe all science, but I disbelieve in the science that was started originally. That's where what the basis of science was based on, not where it is now, because we have come leaps and bounds technology-wise, but how it was started and how that control thing came in and how the mentality basically was developed. That was how we basically ended up. Hang on, what was that? Bobby, what about looking from Scotland looking to Europe? You can't see it. You can look from, you can technically, if you stand from Whitecliff to Dover, you can look across to Calais. You would be able to see that with a telescope or even a pair of binoculars, I would probably say. That's not really that far. So again, it comes in, you've got a lot of stuff that are going to be in your way. You've got a lot of terrain. Once you actually reach land, obviously the earth itself isn't flat because you've got a lot of ups and downs all over the place, you know what I mean? So it's just the way that the setup of the earth itself is just spread out. Just goes and goes and goes.
If you see
there isn't an edge. I think I've seen that question earlier. I can't remember who asked it, but I've seen something about an edge. You're not going to get to the edge as such because we don't know what's there. To me, it's Antarctica could be at the end of the ends of the earth pretty much, and then whatever's past that, if there's anything past that, then that's a bonus. You know what I mean? So what else is there? You know what I mean? So well, I mean, other way you can look at it is what about the a lot of people think about the hollow earth theory.
That's a whole ball of wax.
I know.
But I wanted to ask you though, because I don't want to stay on topic here. Have you seen the experiment with the camera in the basketball?
Yes, how they get up close to it and it looks like it's curved.
No, they start off with a ball and they zoom in so far that they actually make it look flat. It's the same concept. Okay, they got it zoomed in so far, and so that's where the size perspective comes in, because at one point you look at a basketball zoomed in far enough, it looks flat. That's the perspective that we try to explain to a lot of flat earthers, the size difference between the earth and a human being.
Yes, but no. I think because you're going off the shape of a basketball to the shape of the earth, you're going off two completely different math things. Even though you're using the same principle, you're using it off of a different apparatus. You're not really
they're still, both of them are still round.
But then you can also see footage up that high from NASA, and it's curved as fuck.
We've got pictures of the Earth from space.
That's what we see, though. That's what our impression of it is, though. That's what I don't have. That's what I feel like I've broken free of.
So how do you explain the picture of the blue marble?
The blue marble was, as he said himself, it was a picture of composite images that were taken.
Not the original. 1978, I believe. I could be wrong on the date. It was like late 60s, early 70s. The original blue marble was one picture of the Earth. It wasn't composites. It was one full picture of the Earth from space.
How does that relate to one picture? So you're just seeing a picture of obviously just one side of the Earth.
Yeah, and it's round.
Yeah. Again, it's just to get to me. It's a picture getting taken by somebody that I has worked for the government that I don't trust. So that's where that part of it comes into play. So, like, I mean, do you trust not just Trump, but do you? I know not to get into politics, but do you trust the government 100%?
No, and I work for the government, so no, I don't. But I come at it from a different perspective than a lot of people. I worked for the government. I know they do shady shit. But NASA isn't the government. NASA is a very, very small percentage of the United States government. And you take NASA out of the equation, you still have 180 something odd other countries that are developed that have, I think there's 120 of them have space programs. They're all coming back with the same thing. Every single one of them, the Earth isn't flat.
then you've got to think again. It's again the conspiratorial part of me thinks it's the people that are actually in charge of these. It's all at the end of the day, it's all the same person or people that are probably running these corporations. At the top of the chart is probably the same people that have started the American ones have all had their fingers and started all these other ones. They've always got a connection. So, so if they're in control of what goes on, what the narrative is that's going to be fed, then that's what is just going to be the normal because nobody questions it because that's what everybody thinks is what's supposed to be.
But see, that's the thing. Everybody does question it. That's how we know it's not flat. It's because it's been questioned and proven over and over and over again that the Earth is not a flat disc. We don't have a 400-foot ice wall surrounding us. The Earth is an oblique spheroid, wider at the center than it is at the poles, and it spins around at 1,000 miles an hour around the sun and around the galaxy. It's been proven. It's been mathematically proven. It's been visually proven. I don't understand why just because you don't even have to take governments into consideration. You can look at independent universities. You can look at the Catholic Church. Even the Catholic Church scientists say the Earth is an oblique spheroid. Independent universities that are not affiliated with any governments say the Earth is not flat.
But they're all tied together, though. Universities, the people that run the universities are high up powers. You know what I mean? And the Vatican Church is all part of that as well. They're all connected. So that's what it comes down to. They all have connections to each other, and this is what I mean. Like people don't see that. But it's there. It's in plain sight. People have connections with each other, and it's whether you choose to see it or not. It's like what
you're trying to tell me is, take an example, the Japanese government, which up until recently, within the last 60 years, 60, 80 years, something like that, was run by the Imperial Emperor. The Supreme, there was run by one guy until recently, within the last 100 years. So what you're saying is he was in on the whole conspiracy that the Earth is flat?
He might not even have known about it.
Well, that's the thing.
But he might not have deemed at that time. So when we're talking about 100 years ago, you said?
Yeah, it's been within the last 100 years. I don't remember exactly.
So when did he go out of power then? About 100 years ago?
I want to say it's like 60 years or something like that. He went from being
a long time.
Sorry, I'll interrupt there. The Japan still does have an emperor.
Yeah, I was getting.
But he
symbolic.
He lost his godhood in 1945.
See, I thought it was 60, 70 years. Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, so I forgot what I was saying.
So did I. I lost my train of thought.
So the emperor.
The Japan, yes. Maybe he wasn't deemed. Maybe they just didn't tell him because at that time Japan didn't really have the technology to go and find this shit out. Even if it was until the sort of 20s up until the 60s, there was no technology that Japan had that would have allowed them to go up into space. So they would have been oblivious to it anyway.
You don't need to go into space to prove the Earth is flat, though. I mean, the Earth is not flat.
Again, they're just going off their teachings, what they've been told. I'm sure they would have had some ancient teachings that could have had different narrative back in the day, and it got changed. As I said, a lot of history has been destroyed and been varied and changed.
Not the Japanese. The Japanese and the Chinese take meticulous.
They're also very, very secretive at the same time.
Yeah, they are, but they do take very meticulous notes on their history. They can date their history back thousands of years. So
they even had dragons. Like, where did dragons come from? Like, where the fuck?
that's a whole nother story.
I know, this is what I mean. Like, it's everything's connected.
I forgot what I was going to say. Where's that? Here we go. This is for me and you, Bobby.
I know. Fucking hell, man.
I forgot.
I know. Well, sorry, somebody put a question up there. I'm just going to read this one. Nerdy Rodent, and I'll try and remember that other one. When you use the scientific method to try and explore something that doesn't exist, then you'll find it doesn't exist. Take the luminiferous ether as an example. Well, I mean, ether is I don't know a lot about it, but I'm under the impression that it's just some sort of like I don't want to say, I've got the word component in my head, but I don't think that's the right word to use. It's like fucking hell, I've got a complete mind blank. What does he mean? What is a luminiferous ether then?
They used to believe that space was an ether, it was a measurable substance. And
yes, okay, yeah.
And they proved that it's not. They proved that the ether doesn't exist because they use the scientific method.
That could just be something, but that could just be something that was an idea that they thought was there, and then that concept got taken out of it again. To me, that's not really anything to do with flat Earth or round Earth. To be honest, it could work either way.
Yeah, but that's not the point. I think the point that Nerdy was trying to say is through the scientific method, you can prove that something either exists or doesn't exist. And through the scientific method, we've proved that the Earth is spherical and not flat.
Because people go off of scientific methods that they have been using for thousands of years. So people don't question it. Well, that's the thing. That's where the change comes in.
But it works. The scientific method works. You can do your own scientific method.
I'm not disproving science. I know science does work, but I'm just saying it does. It to me, it also works off. Excuse me, works off the basis of the normal narrative, so to say, the normal what we perceive as normal narrative should be. Everybody just goes along with it as normal because that's what it's all been told. But again, it's tricky because I don't understand the science part of it. I am completely mass dyslexic. I don't understand that part of it. I go off what I see and what I feel. Like not necessarily a spiritual sort of thing, but like I've probably got a little bit of spirituality. I don't know what kind of spirituality, but it's not the sort of that I don't know. Maybe it's just my own little personal spirituality that I've got that is non-existent apart from within myself. You know what I mean?
So KCA Randy asked, he said, what is the payoff with the grand conspiracy?
Yes, that was what I was going to come back to as well. Well, again, it could just come down to this new world order. It could all just come back to this, you know what I mean? This government control, because that's at the end of the day who runs the world is the various governments. Nobody can disagree that at all. Everybody 100% should be able to agree with me on that. You cannot trust your government. You cannot trust what the mainstream media tells you. What the mainstream media tells me, I just do not believe. You know what I mean? Operation Mockingbird, if anybody doesn't know what that is, look into that. You know what I mean? So, Osman Kamif, let's try and be nice to Bobby. He's a good bloke. If you don't goad him into exploding. I won't explode, Osman. You know what I mean? I'm pretty chill, Ozzy. You know what I mean? So, yeah. I get passionate. You know what I mean? So that's what it is. I get passionate. Yeah, that's a good question. Where's the proof the Earth is flat? It's trying to get that information because nobody's going to scientifically fund a scientific experiment to prove that the Earth is flat. Nobody's going to give them $10 million to try and prove it. So that's why we don't have any proper proof. I think. Again, we don't. To me, I don't know why we don't have a live feed of the Earth from the moon. Why can't we have a camera set up in the moon doing a live feed? You know what I mean? That would be a good indication what we can actually properly see. If we have a live, non-stop, something that would probably convince me if we have a rocket with a camera on it, it can just go continuously for 3 days, but there can be no stopping. There can be no cuts. It has to be a continuous film. Gets on the moon, sets the camera up, and then carries on.
Didn't they just with the SpaceX rockets? Didn't they have one continuous shot from launch to orbit?
Yes, but you didn't really get to see you only got to see a small percentage of it because they're only going 200 miles up, so that's not really that high.
But I'm trying to remember because I don't remember if this one or was another one. But didn't it show the curvature of the Earth? Wasn't there a shot on it that showed the curve on the Earth?
I'm not sure off the top. I have to go back, and I can't remember off the top of my head. I'll have to go back. Hang on. What was that again? What were we talking about again?
The SpaceX rockets.
Oh, the SpaceX one, yes. Oh,
yeah.
Fucking hell, I forgot what I was going to say again now about it. Right, I was going to try and write it down, but I fucking didn't have time to. I blame. See, I can't even speak properly. I can blame mine on my brain surgery. I don't know what yours is, Jay. We watched that last week. Yeah, we did. But oh yeah, the continuous shot. Yeah, it was going up, but again, you're sort of seeing the camera from. We only seen a small percentage of that night. You know what I mean? So, but even watching the full thing, you can still get to see where at some points it does go flat, but then you go convex again. So it's just a sort of. We just want to have just some sort of footage like that. Like, I don't know why that isn't possible because nobody's going to fund it. You know what I mean? So yeah, you saw the curve, but again, it also got to a point, but then it stopped as it was going around. It looked like it was actually going to flatten out, but then the shot changed to something else.
I didn't watch it, so I can't.
I've actually pretty much. I didn't watch the whole thing. I pretty much just skipped to like the bits that. Like I needed to see like where they were traveling over land and stuff like that. Like, but there was a weird section, right? I've got this weird video. I don't know if you've seen it. Did I put it up with the spaceship was like jolting about all over the screen? Did you see that one?
No.
Wow, that was weird. Like the camera just changed. You can go back in the footage and watch it. I think we were talking about this last week. I was saying about the 9-hour mark. The camera changes to like this different view, and you can see all these stars moving and where you couldn't see stars before. But then the spaceship itself just darts around the screen just in all these weird directions, but nothing else moves. It's just as if that moves. So if you're seeing that,
I can't speak to that. I didn't
watch. Yeah, you need to go and watch it, man. It's sort of you're sort of like, hang on a minute, like And if I can't explain it, as I said, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's Gary. If it doesn't mean that it doesn't make sense, it doesn't have to be true. I think that was something along those lines, and that didn't make sense to me. So I'm like, I wanted to sort of try and understand that. So, but yeah.
So Osman Ashley says, do you accept the ISS as appropriate evidence that you asked for just now? If not, why do you not accept it?
Well, ISS is I don't accept it because it's NASA funded. It's basically comes 100% down to that. I can't trust anything that they're going to put out. They're going to show me. I'm not. I honestly can't take that bubble has been broken for me. And I used to love that shit, man. Like honestly, I was
but
right into it.
You yourself can prove that the ISS is where it's at.
Yes, the ISS is up there, but I don't necessarily know if what happens in there all the time. A lot of what goes on could happen at the National Buoyancy Laboratory, where you can see footage sometimes of them up in space, and they're going about, and they bring their visors down, and there's a guy in the reflection that looks like he's wearing a scuba suit.
I haven't seen that. I don't know.
Yeah. So, what's this? Osman, another question, Bobby. After the ISS mission, what about the Himawari 8? Yes, we did talk about that with Jerry last week. I did actually have a look at that, but again, it's just, to me nowadays it just looks like a CGI drawing. That's all I see. I don't see it for what it's supposed to look like, in all honesty. You know what I mean? And I really don't know what it would take for me to change my mind. As I said,
let me ask you this question here. So you don't so what you're saying is because it's a government thing, doesn't matter what government, it's a government thing, you're not going to trust what it has to say.
No. Because I just can't. Governments only have it in for themselves. They've got it in for themselves, and they've got it in for the people that run these governments. It's all these higher powers. Like people say it's false, but it's not. You know what I mean? So like, there's stuff like what's going on in the States where we didn't even get into that. We weren't even going to get into that. You know what I mean? That itself is completely ridiculous. What's happened? You know what I mean? So to me, that's a complete false flag. You know what I mean? So it's just to start something. It's a control thing. Everybody's aware. Oh, to go off topic, but on topic at the same time. So think of it like this, right? Everybody's been in a coronavirus. Everybody's been locked down, panic, cabin fever. Nobody's been able to go everywhere, anywhere. Everybody has to wear masks. All of a sudden, what happened. There's shit going on. Everybody's wearing masks. When riots normally start, the people who are the rioters and the anarchists, the Antifa, they're all the ones that wear masks because they want to hide their identity. But now everybody wears a mask, so everybody gets targeted. What about that? You know what I mean? So that's what sort of, and then it's like, it's one thing after another. These powers get put into place. At the moment, Hillary Clinton, have you seen that Hillary Clinton's being questioned like really heavily about Benghazi and her emails, and she's trying not to get into that. I've been watching a lot of stuff like that, and she's been getting torn to shreds, and it's been awesome to see.
No, I don't do politics.
No,
I try to stay away.
But that's what I mean. This is a massive thing. Like, all this shit could go down as political corruption and treason at the highest degree, and nobody knows about it because everybody's distracted by coronavirus and riots.
But in every single country, though.
But
that's the thing. That's the thing. For this conspiracy to work, it has to be every single country.
Of course, because these people have places all over the world. They're not just based in America. They've got people all over the world. How can you? The Acme bricks that were delivered, ready. The Acme brick company that dropped off the bricks for the rioters, just dropped off pallets and pallets of bricks, which is the Acme company is actually owned or was owned by Warren Buffett. You know what I mean? So police getting bricks out of their cars, police breaking their own vehicles and then blaming it on routers, agent provocateurs banging about, smashing windows. You know what I mean? Like, the police are in it at the same time. Not all of the police are, I'm not saying that, but there's a large percentage of them, or maybe a small percentage of them are. It's hard to tell. But again, it comes down to that control. Not everybody's in. It's like George Carlin said, it's a big club and you ain't in it. Not everybody's in this club.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So that's where, and it's everybody's controlled because if they've got branches everywhere, all these governments, regardless, you look at like MI5, they've got places in America, they've got places in Russia, they've got places in Asia. You look at Mossad, you look at KGB, you look at the fucking, I can't remember the name of the Chinese ones now. You've got all these different mobs that are all jumping about and like against each other, but in bed with each other at the same time. And they've all got like dirt on each other and stuff. So to me, it just seems like a bit of a house of cards that's all going to come collapsing down. But the thing is, right? If you look back at statistically, 4 years ago, the same thing happened with another chap died. I can't remember his name, and the same thing happened. There was a big riot, protest. Like, that's the thing. They become protests, but they just quickly become riots, and it's a shame. But that's because you've got all these funded people. George Soros is funding these, and Chris actually had to agree with me in this. He didn't agree with me at the start, but then I think I need to get another tagline saying Bobby Mack was right in this, actually, Chris. These guys fund these people. They pay these people, and you go on like Craigslist, and you can actually become a paid protester, and they pay you to go out and anarchize the fucking system.
Okay, I want to stop you here on this conversation because me and Chris actually talked about this, and I've just started looking into it. So I don't want to delve into this one now, because it is a topic I think we should talk about at some point. But I've just started looking into it, so I got almost no.
That's the thing, though. But why have you just started looking into it now when it's been going on for a while? What stopped you from looking into it?
It's never really came on my radar to a point where I would take it seriously.
Okay.
You know, I mean, I understand the points that you're coming from, but I want to look into it more.
No, definitely, mate. So. But I think so. Just on topic, but off topic quickly. I think what would happen in that sort of situation was if the House of Cards didn't come falling down for the DNC, and Biden, the election was still going on, do any of you see the possibility of Biden becoming ill or something and then Hillary stepping in at the last minute? What would be the chances of that happening?
Zero chance. I'll jump in on this one.
Yeah.
You're going into politics. That's way out of my league. So
and I'll jump into this one really, really quick, and I'll jump out of it very quick because I don't want to make it politics. Zero chance of Hillary, because if Hillary goes in with Biden, Biden loses. Biden's actually half a chance of winning at the moment. The most likely is Kamala Harris, but possibly I can't think of a name, and it's only because she's new to it all. The mayor of Atlanta is someone who's been touted. I can almost guarantee.
The Rock, you could have The Rock at the last minute. He comes in. Do you smell what The Rock is cooking? He just appears in the fucking outside the White House. He's already said it'll be Americans. It will be a woman of color. I just want to say this quickly. No offense to Americans, but The Rock is somebody that I think that people would be like, do you know what? We're going to vote him in. Even though he knows nothing about politics.
I heard something yesterday that he's actually got 0.3% of the votes.
I know, yes. I know, that's what sort of I seen that a few days ago, and I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, is he going to be a last minute? It's going to be like being like he's been away from the WrestleMania for 10 years, and he makes and everybody just goes fucking mental, you know what I mean? So Rocky. And then he becomes the next prime minister, the next president. So
well, possibly it'll be him versus Kanye in 2024.
I know. I forgot about that one. Jesus Christ!
It'll most likely be Kamala Harris, but I can pretty much guarantee, with everything going on in the US at the moment, Joe Biden will have a female person of color as his running mate. The only one who's an outsider, and I think he'd have her in a heartbeat, but I don't think she wants to do it, would be Michelle Obama. Michelle Obama steps in, they win.
Have you heard the conspiracy about Michelle Obama?
That's for another week. That's for another week.
What
was I
going to say? No. I know. I was going to say something else. Then I was going to say something else. No. I know. I just wanted to. We're on a conspiracy show, mate. Like, you've got to we're going to have to talk conspiracies. You can't. You can't. You know what I mean? You can't dumb it down. You know what I mean? So,
next week. This is
I know. No, I know. There was something else I was going to bring up and point that. Yes. No. I see Trump winning again. I see Trump winning this election. I'm not a Trump supporter. Don't get me wrong, but I see him coming through in this, because it seems like they're trying to throw everything at him and nothing seems to be sticking. So we'll wait and see anyway. We'll wait and see. But Clinton's coming back up. She has to show her all her emails in 22nd of, not the 26th, somewhere around the September time. So she tried to fight that. She didn't want that to come out, but all her emails are actually going to come out because they've got Anthony Weiner's laptop, and there's a lot of fucking horrible stuff on that. That's very incriminating for a lot of people.
That's probably a whole episode in itself, that one. So what I'll do is,
that's what I'm keen to do, because that's sort of one that I've delved deep into a little bit, all that sort of shit.
No, I mean,
yeah, we'll work that one out later. Look, we're at the hour 15 mark, so if I know we were going to try and touch on moon landing as well, but I think we've probably left that too late. We might look at that down the track. Yeah, I guess
Loch Ness Monster next week. Loch Ness Monster or cryptids.
Cryptids. Oh, I love me some cryptids.
I'm very keen for the Loch Ness. Are you saying that Loch Ness Monster's real, Bobby?
You know what? I don't know, so I can't say yes or no. As Gary said, it doesn't have to make sense to be true, mate.
I think we might have found our topic for next week. So anyway, we'll discuss it. We'll discuss it during the week.
We'll see you.
So look, do you guys want to?
Thank you, Christopher. Thank you, Jay.
Any closing remarks, gentlemen?
What was that, Bobby?
I was just saying thank you, gentlemen. It's been fun. Any closing remarks? Yes. Question everything. Just have a look at it. Look at some things that are outside your comfort zone, so to say. You don't have to necessarily take all the red pill. You can just crush it up and snort half of it. It's up to you. You know what I mean? So, not that I condone doing drugs, kids. Don't do that. But yeah, I think people do have to just go out of their comfort zone and question everything, but question the the majority of stuff and look into it and open your eyes and let's
What
all
about,
wake up.
what about the flat Earth? Should you question the flat Earth?
No, because I question it to get to the flat Earth. So I question it from one narrative to another. So, but my point of view in the flat Earth has changed a few times as well. It's always stayed very similar, but different topics. But that was because I was learning about it and I was just trying to divulge a lot of different information and conflicting information, because like anything, you're going to get decent stuff and you're going to get not so decent stuff. So it's hard. Anyway,
incidentally, I know Paul Camish has said he would love to have a chat to you at some point as well, Bobby. He's got a lot of understanding. He's a pilot, understands a lot about the globe. That could be an interesting
sort of six-pack or something like that, maybe.
Yeah. Well, he's going to flick me a message. We'll work it out and we'll sort the details. Jay, what's going on with you, mate?
Nothing. I do want to reiterate on something that Bobby said. It absolutely research and look at it, but don't dismiss the evidence that you're shown just because it doesn't fit what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a problem with a lot of conspiracy theorists. It doesn't prove their narrative, therefore they yell it's fake.
Yeah, but I think because I've not always been this way, so I think from seeing it from one narrative to then flipping it and then seeing a different part of the narrative, then it sort of makes more sense to me, because I have seen both sides of it, whereas the majority of people have just seen one side of it, so they haven't divulged a lot. Like I've been into it for like 3 years, so I don't know heaps about it. Like I'm not fucking on it every single night. Like the first probably year or so I was probably going a bit, but I'm still into it. I just don't go fucking hard on it, you know what I mean? So, but this is just what I'm into, you know what I mean? So I'm not part of a cult. It's just me. I don't know. I know like a couple of boys at work, we talk about flat Earth and stuff like that, but there's not really anybody sort of like I feel I'm like a Ronin. I'm like a lone wolf.
The
last man on flat Earth.
What I will say to close things off is I agree. Question everything. Also, when you're questioning things and when you're looking at things, look at them from a neutral point of view. Don't start with the conclusion whether it's globe or flat. Look at the evidence and make the conclusion based on what the evidence is. But that's what I'm saying. It's
that was neutral because I was just like neutral, as in I just thought the Earth was round.
I'm agreeing. That means I'm agreeing with you, Bobby.
I think you need to put that at the bottom. And again, you do have to agree with me. You do have to agree with me in the George Soros thing. So I know sometimes you think that when I talk to you and I go on my mad rant sometimes, and I think I just do your head in sometimes. I was told you about George Soros and funding it for 2 weeks ago. And you didn't agree with me.
I love your mad rants. That's why we go and have beers all the
time. I just go on the phone and I just like fucking bombard Chris. I can just feel Chris just go shutting his eyes, just going, oh, fucking hell! Like
there's sometimes where you call me and I'm just like, and you start into it, and I'm just like, oh fuck, what I answer the phone.
So I do want to. I have one comment on the George thing, because Chris sent me a link to something to look at, and I was looking at it, and the first thing that popped up is that they made a big deal of the fact that he's a Jewish businessman.
Oh, no, that's not got anything. He's Hungarian. Like, yeah, he's probably a Jewish Hungarian, but
yeah, but see, that's the thing.
Like that. What was that, sorry?
He was raised in communist Hungary, so yeah, the religion side of things doesn't come into it too much.
No, I know, yeah.
No, I know, but
that's where blaming him.
It goes back to the religious aspect of conspiracy theories, because he's a Jew, he's automatically a bad guy.
But that's what as he says, that's where everybody sort of goes and blames Jewish people. You know what I mean? So it's not all. It's like everybody. It's not all of society is bad. You know what I mean? It's the majority of people are good. It's just that, however, could be 15, 20, whatever % of people in that group are cunts. So, if I can say that on here, can I? Is that the children online? Sorry. No.
No, it's my all right. So on that note, I will end it here. So thanks everyone who's in the chat. A lot of people.
Thank you. In the chat. I'll have to go back and read them all now. So,
Yeah. If you
I
want.
don't care. As I said, comments don't bother me.
No,
Nothing
to do with
Oh
you.
no,
this
yeah,
time.
again, as I said, it doesn't bother me at
There's
all.
a little
Funny,
bit of a
fun.
little bit of a drama going on in the chat, but that's okay. Anyway,
Is it what, about me or about somebody
No,
else?
it's not about you.
Oh, good. That's fine. That's good. I don't feel too bad now.
It started with you, and it ended with a whole
Well,
different
hopefully
thing.
it was somebody defending my honour, and then somebody was having a go at them.
Ironically, yes.
It was.
I don't know if it's defending your honour as such, but
No, my honour. I know.
Anyway, with this, and I'll reiterate, Conspiracies isn't a debate. The whole purpose of this is because we want to have two people from opposing mindsets come together, look at things, have a conversation, because what's interesting is seeing two people who are both very skeptical look at things from completely different angles and come to completely different conclusions, and that's interesting. It's almost the study on the human mindset. So if you want to
study of two different psychopaths,
it is. If you want the people yelling at each other and all that kind of shit, this probably isn't the one for you.
I'm a high functioning, like Sherlock Holmes says, I'm a high functioning sociopath.
Yeah.
Anyway, look, thank you everyone who's been here. Thanks, Bobby. Thanks, Jay.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Jay.
As always, this is probably the most fun I have every week listening to this conversation because it's so fucking interesting. But anyway,
I was worried. I didn't know what we were going to end up talking about tonight. I was like, because we had no fucking idea at the start really where it was going to be going. It was pretty much just thrust upon us. But we did well. We got there. We actually. Yeah, it went by.
And we didn't even touch on the moon landing stuff, which was that could be. We'll save it. We'll pencil that for a few weeks. Maybe we might do the George Soros thing next week, but we'll talk about that during the week.
We'll sort something out. To be honest, mate, there's so much shit going on. I mean, we could have what we could do. We could have like a conspiracy bingo. Like, what's going to happen next? You know what I mean? Is Yellowstone going to go off? Are we going to have
you know what? I
can see it.
In 100 years, actually, you know what? Sorry, I'm just going to do something.
Supposedly, there's a meteor coming 5.1 million Ks from Earth this weekend. I've heard.
Sorry, so I'm just going to say something. Yeah, the person in the chat, I've just muted them. That kind of shit's just not welcome. If you want to come and start fights in here, like fuck off and do it somewhere else. Everyone was being pretty respectful to you. Okay, yeah, it's. You were throwing a few things out there. Yeah, you're skirting the line, whatever. I wasn't too bothered by that. But when you start insulting people in the chat, well, you know what? You can fuck off, unsubscribe to the channel because you're the kind of douchebag I really don't want. Like there's other channels out there. Yeah, no, you didn't miss a thing. It's just some dickhead starting fights in the chat. Go find another channel. Like seriously, unsubscribe and fuck off. Anyway, I'll just confirm.
Conspiracy. That's true.
Yeah, that's me telling people to fuck off. So, it's I don't mind a little bit of banter in the chat.
No, I know, but yeah, you don't want anybody being a fuckwit,
this person starts insulting Ozman and then has a go at Ilya, like at that point you're actually just being a douchebag. So
yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, I know. There's no like
whatever. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. But that person, please unsubscribe from my channel. I'm not that desperate for a sub that I'm going to suck up to you and ask you to come back. So I hope you don't actually, and go and bag the shit out of me because it's probably good publicity for me anyway. Right. On that note, I'm just going to confirm that Ozman is not a flat earther. Ozman is definitely not a flat earther. Ozman is just someone.
Up for me, was he?
Yeah, Ozzy was. Ozzy's just someone who, like me, likes to hear both sides of the argument without being a fucktard about it. So, anyway, that's what I'll have to say about that. So, Bobby, we all love you. Come back next week.
Everybody's favourite flurf.
Everyone's favourite flurf. We'll get the shirt made. Don't worry.
I know, fucking hell. I should have really thought of something more manlier, you know what I mean? So then flurf, you know what I mean? So I feel like it should have a fucking. I think it should be instead of the flat disc and the turtle, it should be a flat disc on the back of a unicorn. That's a Scotland's national animal.
I was going to suggest a dragon, but anyway,
no, unicorn. No, Scotland's national animal is a unicorn. True story. I don't know why.
Well, there you go. It's because Scotland doesn't exist.
Well, there we go.
Oh, there we are. There we are. All right. So
that means I live in two different. Now this feels like I'm in the Truman Show now because
two different places that don't exist.
No. Yeah, technically Australia doesn't exist and Scotland doesn't exist. So who am I? He's onto us. He's onto us.
You're a brain. You're a brain.
Fog. More fog.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good one. Really good to see everyone wherever you are on this beautiful planet. Have a good night, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, or good whatever it is, wherever the hell you are.
Be water, my friends.